Hey, how's it going? I often write things down in my notes app, whenever I have something I want to talk about or, just something is really bothering me. And for the past couple months, specifically just this year, there's been a consistent pattern. And that is just with news, current events. I feel like I used to always be, wanting to talk about my mental health and, personal struggles that I'm going through. But it has just been, if I look at it right now, it is all just whatever's in the news that day that really bothers me. And that's stuff that I don't really care to talk about, at least most of the time. But what I have noticed is this urge to avoid the black pill. Now, what I mean by that is essentially not falling into a hole of nihilism, not succumbing to giving up, to wanting to shut myself down and keep my head down, which is something I think so many people do. It's something that I've done a lot, especially in my early childhood when my family situation wasn't going so well, or I didn't really feel safe and I just had to put my head down and push forward and sort of zone out from reality. And I think that's why I actually really struggle to remember so much of my childhood. It's just because I wasn't absorbing things. I wasn't making decisions based off of what I want, but rather based off of necessity. And I feel like nowadays it has always just been this constant struggle to avoid taking the black pill, to avoid falling into nihilism. And I guess when wanting to sit down here and talk about stuff and looking through my notes app and just seeing topic of the day after topic of the day, bad news after bad news, it's hard. It's really hard to not feel like there's nothing I can do and that everything around me is falling apart. I think one way I've been able to communicate this with people is talking about, climate change or the environment. I think a lot of us, if you're around my age, in your 20s, I'm sure even now, kids growing up now in high school and stuff like that grew up with, you gotta use reusable plastics and always recycle and da-da-da-da. And over time, I think a lot of us has seen how futile a lot of those efforts have been. Companies don't even recycle 90%. I don't know the real statistic, but it's very little. I think aluminum is one of the only things that they actually recycle. And it's one of those things where so many people are like, what can I do? What can I as an individual do realistically to actually make a difference? And I think the reason this comparison works, because I think it's realistic. Just me, like let's say no one else does it, and just me decides I'm going to go completely green. Everything in my life is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Like my carbon footprint is meaningless when compared to corporations and governments that are just dumping everything into the ocean and releasing more emissions than I could ever even dream of emitting with my 2004 Toyota Camry. It is this instance where I think so many people almost rightfully are like, why should I give a fuck? Like, awesome, now my straw disintegrates in my cup because I'm supposed to be caring about the environment when there's really nothing I can do. And it's something that I think about a lot. And I just try and remind myself, at least in this specific instance, because this isn't about climate change. This isn't about recycling. That's not what this video is about. But, there are little things I can do. Just doing the things that I can do as an individual, as an ant in this just ginormous universe. Like what can I realistically do? Really? Not a lot. It's not really up to just me, but I can do what I can do. I'm sure there's a better way. I could have worded that, but I feel like there is just so many other things to where you can apply this mindset to. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is I sort of just feel this with life in general. I don't talk about politics really a whole lot, but I think politics are, and I think it's actually kind of related to climate change, which I don't want this video to just be about that. But like, with politics, for example, so many people don't vote because why does my one vote matter? And they just become extremely nihilistic and, whatever happens. And I think a lot of these mindsets just come from life in general sucking. The quality of life is going down. Like that's just a fact. My generation is the first generation where I think it's, the majority of us will have a lower quality of life than our parents. That's a very real thing. And I think it just bums a lot of us out. I just feel immense stress to, at one point, get myself in a position where I can have a family. And I worry every day that I'm never going to be able to do that, that I'm not working hard enough. And it's so easy to just want to give up, to want to just eat like shit, to want to fall into my vices. And it becomes a never-ending cycle. I've talked about this, I think, with, hobbies. A lot of people, adults, when they get older, work just becomes so much and life becomes so tiring that A lot of people give up on their hobbies. A lot of people stop drawing, making music, or even simple things like playing video games. It's something that I have always never wanted to do. Like, I want to be 50, 60, 70 even, and still be doing what I love, whether it's maybe even, this, or drawing or just playing video games. I don't want to let the crushing reality of like work or whatever zap me of my life force or whatever you want to call it. And I just feel like that's so important. A lot of times, for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's because I do videos like this, I do have friends that come to me and, they'll talk to me and they'll vent to me, and they sort of come to me as not necessarily the voice of reason, but someone who can give them the positives, give them something to look forward to, maybe take a situation that sucks and maybe say why it doesn't suck all that much. Like, what's the reality? What's actually going on? And I almost feel some pressure because of that. One, because I'm just as scared as everybody, but also because as time has gone on, as I have just been sucked into these awful rabbit holes on the internet of just the worst type of videos, the worst type of posts, the most racist, the most homophobic, whatever you want to call it, as I've just been surrounded by these things time and again, it's really hard to continue to be that person for people. And I think you even see that here a little bit. I talk about what I talk about here, mainly to console myself, but also to sort of be a positive voice, or a voice that someone can relate to if they stumble across this stupid little channel. And man, it has just gotten so hard to do that. And this isn't like a woe is me. This isn't me sitting up on my soapbox or anything like that. But I don't know. It's kind of why I haven't been uploading. Because like, what am I going to talk about? I have so many things in my notes here. Like, I can probably even pull something up right now. For example, the online censorship that is currently happening. It really is scaring me, but I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know what to talk about with that. That isn't really even really relevant to a lot of the stuff I've talked about here. It is still something I want to talk about, but there's also stuff with like AI. I don't know. I'm sure people would maybe care to hear me talk about some stuff like that, but man, shit just feels like it sucks. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. I don't know. It just feels so hard to hold on to whatever hope is left. And, I have been feeling a lot better, especially since I've started doing this. I started doing this. I've talked about this so much before, and it's almost become a little meta at this point, but I started doing this because I had no one to talk to, and I just felt so awful and so shitty. And over the past 2 years, I feel a lot better. Especially when I talked about my medication, I genuinely feel like a different person. I feel so much more rational. I can really think through a lot of my emotions now. A lot of my videos spawned out of thin air almost because I was up at 4 in the morning. I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't get these thoughts out of my head, and I don't feel like that anymore. So, that's something. I can look back on the videos I've made and see, I'm making a lot of progress. So that is something I can be proud of, and something that I can look forward to. But when it comes to like the fiscal reality of our world, it is just so overwhelming. And I don't know. I don't have a point to this. I don't have any sort of solution, but I do just sort of, I'm talking to myself here, but just sort of, don't give up, or don't fall into these holes that I feel like I see my friends falling into all the time. And I see people online sort of just giving up and stop caring about things that really mean something to them. I don't know. I feel like I had just so many thoughts that I just wanted to ramble off here. And yeah, I got Twitter and stuff in the description. I upload a lot on my second channel, by the way, which I've said multiple times here, but I'm sure a lot of people still don't know about it. I have it in the description. I just talk about games that I'm playing. And yeah, see ya.